Hello and welcome to Raising Anchor, your podcast and source for all things Rhode Island FC. I'm your host, Matt Entrikin, and I'm coming back to you fresh on a Thursday, January 9th, 2025. New year, new us? I don't know. I think we're the same people. But we're back here in the studio. It's a wreck all around. You'd be surprised at what happens when you take 30 days off and not care about things. But we're here. We're going to get everyone ready for the preseason to come ahead. And I can only imagine going on this journey with the one and only, finally back in the co-host chair. I've had a lot of interviews lately, but you're back, ready to attack. Jason, how's it going, my friend?
Not too bad, all things considered. Maybe some random not so great things, Zell passed away, RIP, That's too bad for him. Never obtained that perfect form again. Wind kind of sucks. Like, it's been pretty cool. Like, I don't mind cold weather, but you throw wind in there, it's like, nah, it's just absolute miserable.
Well, that's why for the name of this, I was like, what do you rhyme with preseason? You got to go with freezing. It's the Freezing Preseason.
And speaking of wind, I don't know if we have too many listeners all the way out there in the West Coast, but California is on fire and it's just not stopping. And the wind out there is a lot worse than what we're having to deal with. It's, any of you guys out there listening, please stay safe. And, our thoughts are with you.
Yeah, I want to make a joke about that, but like you just took it. Did you just start New Year's off with a very somber and real approach? Like, is this how this is going to go for the night?
I don't know. I mean, my brain, like, I see it and immediately think of Bad Religion. The hills of Los Angeles is burning. Like, I'm just broken.
I mean, we both have ties to Los Angeles. Our families we have family members out there. We have friends. We actually know someone who is an avid fan of this podcast, an avid listener who has been directly impacted and had their home destroyed by this. So it is not something to be light of, and we feel terrible. And I don't want to say thoughts and prayers because I hate that phrase, but our hearts go out to anybody. And when we can find out what resources are made available, if anyone feels the charity of time or donation, we'll put that out there because we know people, and I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of listeners know someone directly impacted. This is a devastating event.
Yeah, I mean, it's not exactly, I don't know if there's fires nearby, but like no Fiston.
So I checked in with Noah today. Right? His family is safe. The Eaton fire is blowing towards their direction, but right now, as of now, Noah has checked in. He's safe. My family's safe, but the fire, if it changes like wind direction 1 degree, like they're evacuating. So
yeah, there's fires near my brother and sister, but as of right now, they're both fine.
Yeah. So we will move on, but definitely on our minds for everyone that's impacted by that. And we got to figure that out. So in the meantime, let's get into what people really come here to listen to, which is not environmental disasters. And
is the new Bad Bunny album, right?
Oh, wait. Is that a Puerto Rico? Is that a Puerto Rico time? Because I'm there for it.
Yeah, USL's heading to Puerto Rico. Let's go.
I'm ready. Punch my ticket now. That's now every single away trip destination. It's the first one. Sorry, Hartford. You're backburnered as you should be for all things. Puerto Rico will be the trip of every season. Fun fact: it's not if it's true. I don't. It's just a post right now. There's no legs behind it. The league hasn't responded to it yet. But if it is true, they are not coming back as the Puerto Rico Islanders, the club that was last funded, I think, by Carmelo Anthony. They're not coming back in that iteration. It'll be a new team. Slated for 2026. I think that's way too fast. I don't believe any of this right now. But those are the headlines I want to hear from this league moving forward. I don't want to hear about, Des Moines Menace trying to get like their thing together in the cornfields of lower Iowa. No, I want Islanders. I want Puerto Rico. I want Guam. I want a Caribbean circuit. I'm there for it. We need a team from Hawaii. Let's get a USL team in Hawaii, and that's my jam.
The travel.
Packing my bags already. Moving on to other league news, and this is just to kind of keep people up to date because there's been a lot of movement around the league. The website for USL does now have a transaction tracker, and of course, our good friend of the pod, John Morrissey, who I think we're now kind of lightly aligned with because we are a part of the Blazing Musket in both our writing contributions and this podcast. Blazing Musket is now partnered with Backheeled. John works for Backheeled. So the 7 degrees of separation.
Yeah. Nice.
So John's now our coworker, I guess. I don't know. But on top of his transfer,
once removed,
cousin's roommate, exactly. But with his transaction tracker as well, lots of good things going on in there. So if you're curious about any of the movements around, we'll talk about the ones impacting Rhode Island FC here in a minute. But the one that I'm not hearing a lot about, and you got to really kind of pay attention, you got a little too deep into the weeds to follow this one, are all of the different head coach announcements and movements that have been going around. We heard a lot about the departures, but now it's kind of time to bring it full circle and understand who's now taking the reins at some of these clubs. So, lightning fast here. We've got the big one that everyone's been talking about, not just today, but we'll talk about that in a second. Dennis Sanchez was the big move of the year. Eric Quill left New Mexico United to head to FC Dallas. Sanchez transformed the lights over one night, it feels like, and just brought them back to glory. He then now moves to New Mexico United. So you take a team to the Western Conference Final, and then you get rewarded with one of the most prestigious, clubs I think now when it comes to new hockey going on in the West. So he moved to Mexico United. Carlos Sosa gets announced for San Antonio FC, which we will see on the very first ever home opener. Luke Spencer moves to FC Tulsa. Terry Boss is the new gaffer in Lexington. And then the interesting ones, Gavin Gilton of Oakland Roots and the one and only Danny Stone, the one man who can best us any given time. They both finally get so far.
Still more opportunities.
Good call. They both get their interim licenses. Their probation. I can't talk tonight. Their probation periods are removed, and they're now full blown head coaches of each of their clubs. And then the one that no one's really talking about, because for the fans of Rhode Island, they don't understand the impact of this yet. Neil Collins returns to the USL and is now signed on to take on Sacramento Republic and try to lead them back to glory. The reason Neil Collins is a big deal is that he ran amok in the league with the Tampa Bay Rowdies just a few years ago. They were so good. I know Louisville City gets a lot of the accolades, but Tampa Bay was so good that the common thought amongst the fans of the league was that it was USL HQ collusion, because every time this team would do incredible things, they'd get these incredible results. No one gave Neil Collins his due, and they all just thought, oh, well, they're only winning because USL's paying Tampa Bay to, their hometown team to win. So Neil Collins coming back is going to be a huge one. But then, not to be outdone, and this is why I bring it all full circle, because I want to talk to you about this. The Las Vegas Lights went in a very interesting direction yesterday. They announced the signing of one Antonio Nocerino, now the new head coach of the Las Vegas Lights. Jason, if you're a Lights fan, you go from last place in the Western Conference in 2023, you go to the Western Conference Final in 2024, and now in 2025, you're going to have the main man in charge be the coach of the worst team, not just in the East, but of the entire league, with only 11 points, and he ripped the ejection handle seat and left with 2 games to go. What are you feeling if you're a Lights fan right now?
I think it would be understandable for them to kind of be skeptical about this decision, but I would argue that he should be given a chance in terms of there's only so much you can do with a tire fire, right? So I don't think any one coach's profile or tenure or job should be decided based upon one season they had at a club. So I think that he deserves a chance. It doesn't always translate that players turn out to be good coaches.
How long of a leash do you give him?
You've got to give him a few months, right, to kind of figure out, at least in this sense, it is preseason. But remember, the Lights, when they started, weren't that great, right? They kind of started.
They need to get knocked around by us, and then they're like, no more.
Yeah, so I would say maybe, summertime, you kind of see how you can, by then you can start to have an idea of okay, the same thing with how we started, right? We could see that we saw what coach was trying to do. It just hadn't panned out yet. So I think you'll have a good idea earlier on, but you still need to give him some time, give him a few months, see how that works out. And if it goes sour again, maybe it's just not for him, or
it'll be interesting. We'll have to see what happened. We have some international love tonight.
Yeah.
Irvin's still in Guatemala. We got Shadow Wolf in Germany. Ewan writes in Kano couldn't even save Miami FC. No disrespect here. I don't want to agree with that statement. That's a good take. I don't think anyone could have saved that team. So moving on, though, let's get on to the alumni watch. We are now such an established club. We officially have alumni news, which that doesn't usually happen for a while. And I mean, again, all of the regular fans are going to know this, but anyone that's just been kind of on pause and not paying attention to socials, we kind of teased last time we were together when we talked about the schedule. Connor McGlynn to Westchester SC in USL 1 that was announced back in December. So we will see him for the April away leg, which is kind of shaping up, it sounds like, from the fandom to be the first traveling kind of trip in force for Rhode Island FC. I think a lot of fans are going to be going to that Charleston game because the flights from Breeze are so cheap.
It does sound like, a lot of people are jumping in on that first game.
But it sounds like Westchester may be like the one that people like get in the car and drive to. So I would be surprised if Westchester doesn't have a good turnout. And then, of course, our special boy, OSB, Gabby Alves, gets announced to Tormenta FC in USL League One. Fun fact, I've known about this for weeks, but, we hear things all the time. Sometimes they're rumors, sometimes they're speculation, sometimes we don't have like the second level vetting, but we've known for a while because his wife worked in the community, and like when that kind of happened, and I don't want to burn bridges here, but that's exactly what happened. It's like, oh, you can't teach here anymore. You gotta move on. So sitting on that one for a while hurt. The weird thing though is I love watching the players' social media accounts. He was in Bristol like 3 hours after I was doing the exact same thing, walking the dog, going to the breweries and whatnot. Like, it was really fun to see him kind of like, I don't know if he was just copying me. I wasn't posting anything, but like, I was like, man, if I just left a couple hours earlier or later, I would have just ran into him naturally. But we love to see that. Congratulations. I think for Gabby, it's an incredible move. I think he's a great player that was just in the wrong formation. I think this is going to be a huge upswing for him.
Tormenta FC is going to be interesting. I'd be curious. Like, I kind of want to maybe check them out, see how he holds up with them too. Did you see they also just signed goalkeeper Austin Pack?
I did.
Who fans may remember from the Charlotte Independence game. He's a pretty good goalkeeper. So, I mean, they might be ones to watch in USL League One.
Chuck says he'll be at the Phoenix game. Are you going to go out to that Phoenix game still?
I'm thinking about it.
Chuck, you may have a single friend in solidarity, at least that we know, that will be out there. I was thinking about going to the Oakland game just because part of me wants to see the Coliseum, but it's not going to be full, and I don't think that's as great of an idea as I think. And then I found out Paul Blanchett
show up in an Ace jersey and just be really confused. Like, what's going on here?
And then I found out Paul Blanchett's not going to be with the club, so it's like, well, no, I don't even have anything to hate. So like, let's reset the clock there. But yeah, so back to Tormenta though. I mean, we're going to see McGlynn in the Jägermeister Cup. You think if Tormenta makes a deep enough run, will we see a Gabby Alves reunion? Maybe. Do you want that? Do you want to see, because Alves would, at that point, theoretically, they would come to Tidewater. Do you want to see us hurt Gabby Alves one more time? Because I don't know if I'm ready for that. I don't know if that's the cost I want to pay.
I mean, there's a difference in terms of like, right, let's say they play each other, RFC wins. I think as long as he puts on a good performance and doesn't like make a mistake that leads to a goal, I don't think there's anything lost there for him in terms of he is now at a team where he's getting playing time, right? He's putting his talents on show and hopefully like continuing to kind of grow and progress as a player.
You couldn't say it better. You hate to see that he had so much talent that just couldn't get across the finish line, so to speak. So I think this is going to be nothing but great things, great signings ahead for him. Let's move in. Speaking of signings, let's talk about the big one that everyone already knows about. It's a week or so old now. Mr. Baccarat himself. Take it away.
Yeah, right in time for the new year, RFC announced the signing of Hugo Baccarat after his first professional season with Minnesota United FC. A native of Benicastin, Spain, he became the second signing for RFC in the 2025 season and the 26th all-time acquisition for RFC. During his youth in Spain, Baccarat spent 12 years in the academy system, a decade of that being with Villarreal before moving to CD Castellón for his final 2 years. He then came stateside to play for Indiana University, where he was named All Big Ten second team, as well as playing for the Flint City Bucks, helping them earn back-to-back conference titles and being named USL Defender of the Year in 2023. He then went on to become selected in the first round of the 2024 MLS Super Draft for Minnesota United FC. His time playing for the first team was limited to 3 appearances, 1 regular season, and 2 Leagues Cup showings.
before finishing the rest of the season with the club's MLS Next Pro Reserve side and tallying 1 goal and 1 assist. The 23-year-old defender's first career goal came in regular season matchup with Sporting KC 2 on September 22nd, where he opened the scoring down 2-0 and sparked a 4-goal comeback en route to a 4-2 win.
And then within the press release, Connell had this to say about the signing. It's like carte blanche here, but Hugo is a young defender that we believe has a lot of upside. He's a very good in and out of possession type of player and will add quality to our defensive positioning and unit. Listen, I think that this is one of those signings that, people are already kind of quick to say, oh, he's a diamond in the rough, what a pickup. I think it's more than that. I think that when you look at this is when we talked to Connor in the interview and we asked him, what were the plans for replacing these players that he had to make difficult decisions to let go, he was keen on and telling us that, I want to wait till the MLS initial roster decisions are done because there's some players that I've been scouting. And then within 20 days, Hugo signed. So these conversations were, you do not flip a player that fast. So these were conversations that were already kind of in the works. And the fact that Connor so quickly went out and really made this the first signing. And the business with Maxi felt like it was done before the final was concluded, right?
I mean, it makes sense. Recently, you talked to Sean Carey, and he's like, I'm already thinking about 2026 at this point.
He's playing 7D chess over there for sure. And so, and what I mean by this isn't a diamond in the rough. I think that this is actually, it's not just like a budget buy. This may be one of the best acquisitions that we could ever go for. And let's talk about it, right? So one, he fits the criteria of Kano's system. He's a tall guy, 6'4", right? He's capable of playing on the left side or the right side of center back positioning, which is exactly what Kano looks for in that 3-5-2 kind of system. Oh, we got some audio acting up.
I don't know. I clicked on something. Maybe that will help.
What'd you do? Anyways, we're gonna keep going. Let us know if it gets fixed. If it doesn't, I'll just mute Jason and I'll run the rest of the show solo. Jason doesn't want to be here. But what I would say is that in regards to Hugo himself, right? This is a player that has now played in senior minutes with MLS. He's seen all different divisions, all different branches of it. Basically, this isn't a guy that was on the outskirts and couldn't get in. When you look at Minnesota United's performance last year in the MLS, they were 6th overall for goals against. And when I mean total, and that's total table, that's not just Eastern or Western Conference. They also took 6th in the West, but they only allowed 46 goals, which gave them the 6th best goals against record. Their defensive back line is solid. And I went in and did some work digging in. Their best rated players at Minnesota were their back line and their goalkeeper. So you had their star player last year was Joseph Rosales. He's their left back. He had the highest assist contribution, the best defender stats. DJ Taylor and Michael Boxall. Boxall I know pretty well. Without them on the pitch, Minnesota basically lost every game for the year. And then ironically, Carlos Harvey was on the right side, which you should know from the LAFC days. Weirdly though, their best substitute defender right now at Minnesota United is, and I always forget that this is a real person, Anthony Marcanic, who is Nick Marcanic's twin brother. And I think someone on Tide Talk or a fan said this in the Discord chat. And then the weird thing, in the 7 degrees of separation, Nick Marcanic going to where? CD Castellón, which is where Hugo Bacharach is from. So it's just it's kind of a fun little spindle of things here. But back to it though, Hugo, I don't think is a diamond in the rough. I think he's just stacked against talent. And remember, Morris Dugan was a loan for Minnesota United to us. He's now back playing with them. He's another player competing with Hugo for minutes. So Hugo could probably start in a lot of places right now. He just has 3 to 4 defenders in front of him that are better. And that's sometimes, some teams stack really weird and really good talent, and then they have to let it go. I think Hugo could be one of the most important pickups we ever have.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how it pans out. Morris Dugan was really good for us. At this point now, we have Hugo for a full season. Right, he's starting with us right off the bat, so that will be good. He can kind of get right into the swing of things. We did see a little bit of a kind of adjustment period with Morris, right? He immediately we saw the talent there, but he kind of needed to learn the system. But yeah, like maybe we're establishing somewhat of a relationship here with Minnesota United.
Yeah,
in terms of like, they have good players who are just maybe not good enough to kind of break into their first team. They can send them over here to us. We can develop them. If they're good enough, they want them back, maybe make some money off that. Or if not, at least do well enough with them in the league to kind of, shake things up and get in good positions.
Yeah, we've been conducting really good business, actually, when you think about it, with most of the northern teams. Obviously New England Revolution, but even like Montreal Impact with Quizera, Vancouver. Like, it seems like Kano's vision for at least MLS scouting is like everyone that gets ignored north of that wall. So I love it.
He knows he doesn't want to go, below a certain point that people aren't going to be down with the weather.
Hey, you know what? Maybe. But I think I agree with you. I think this is a tremendous signing, and I don't think it's just depth. I think, when you really look at who this is replacing Nathan Messer, right? Like, this is a player, and Morris Dugan to a certain extent, but this is a player that's going to challenge for a starting spot in that back three. And I constantly go back and think about what Kano said in his interview, where there were players that were probably over exceeding the expectations, but there were also players that probably needed to take a break or needed to be able to be pulled, but because of position of need, or no one really stepped up and did better. Like,
did
saw
Yao ever get a break? I don't think
no,
so.
and I don't want to single Yao out, but like, imagine if Yao is having a bad run of form, we don't have to just rely on him, because when Stoneman was out, what else were you going to do, right? Stoneman was out for the first 2 months of the season, basically. Yeah, when you're locked into that position and there's no challenge for it, like, you don't grow, you don't stay inspired or motivated, and you can kind of rest on your laurels. Bacharach is going to absolutely challenge these players now and maybe fight to take one of their. It is crazy to think that we may have to discuss that next year Frank Nodarce doesn't have a starting spot on this team because Hugo Bacharach is better. I think that's a great problem to have, and I'm still convinced, by the way, Morris Dugan's also coming back, because the way I see it, Bacharach played one game, right? We talk again about that talent depth. Bacharach played one regular season game. Dugan was loaned to us in August because he just wasn't getting playing time. If Dugan still cannot penetrate that bench or that starting lineup and needs more time, why wouldn't they loan him back to us? And then you have the synergy. I mean, they probably didn't play too much together since they were like
all defenders all day.
I'm just saying, like, we could very quickly become the best defensive team in the USL this season. And you saw Kano constantly focusing on, like, how can I make my defense better? We didn't have an offense problem. The goals were spread pretty evenly across the team. I'm sure all of our strikers would have wanted 1 to 6 more goals, but like, we didn't have that much of an offensive drop in production. If we could get that good at defense, oh man, sky's the limit for this team in the season to come. But the real question here is, beyond the partnership, obviously with a Bacharach now on our team, I'm going to ask you, what song do we need to use to inspire a supporter group chant from Burt Bacharach? Because I only know What the World Needs Now. I know When Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, and I say a little prayer for you. So which Bacharach themed supporter group chant do we need to start? That's the real question.
I don't know. I mean, that's an interesting one to try and rhyme with anything. That's gonna.
Fans in the chat, I need to know what's the correct Burt Bacharach song that we need for the chant in the supporters group. But in the meantime, let's move on. Let's talk about, so we've got the marquee signing of the new year fresh in, but let's talk about the re-signings here, because we've got some people returning, and you love to see it, right?
The boys are back in town.
Well, not all of them. So let's talk about that. Amos Shapiro-Thompson, Isaac Enking, and Kevin Vang all re-sign with Rhode Island FC to bring in the new year. We knew going into the initial roster decisions that, there were 4 players that were going to have renegotiations on their contracts to see if there was a tenable solution for them to return to the club. And Rhode Island FC does just that and announces that 3 of them are coming back. So, Jason, I want to ask you, we'll talk about the Kofi part in a second. With so little to go on this season in terms of these 3 men's playing performances, were these good moves tactically? And I don't mean just because, like, Isaac's going to be laid up until probably at least mid-season. We saw on his social media, he just started his rehab today running, or he just started posting his running video. So he's finally kind of mobile and doing it. I guess, when we look at building a team that's going to be just as competitive as it was last year for this season, was bringing all 3 of these players who, maybe we didn't see the results on the pitch, Was this the right move tactically, or should Kano have looked for other upgrades?
No, I think this is a good move here. These kind of players are all, to a certain extent, fan favorites. 2 of them being local lads, so that's kind of a big deal. I think it's also important that they know the system. And then also, I'm assuming that because they re-signed with us, they are happy and comfortable in the roles that are being promised to them. You know, we saw AST. He didn't get a lot of minutes because he was injured most season, but at the end of the year, like he was putting up some interesting performances there. He showing a lot of fight and grit in the midfield there. So I think that is something that Connor really likes in his players. Kevin Vang didn't get much time, but I imagine that, you know, he's a professional and that he, you know, shows up, does his job, and does what Kano asks of him. Like I said, that kind of that local thing there, and he's happy to continue to train and be with the team and continue to grow with them. And then Isaac, I mean, yeah, another local lad there who unfortunately got injured. He shone really bright there for the brief period of time that we got to see him. So I'd love to see him again towards the end of the year when he's kind of ready to go and see what he can bring to the team. You know, we made it to the final. Like, you know, to say that we need to like blow up the team and like rebuild, like that would be wild. If anything, you look at that and say, well, we made it to the final considering the start to the season that we had. We just need to kind of, you know, strengthen a few certain positions to also kind of make sure that you keep the players that we have on their toes and hungry for that fight and say, hey, like, I know you did it last year, but you need to go out there and do it again. Because if not, I got a guy right behind you. He is ready to go. So you know, we can talk about this a little later. I think maybe we need 1 or 2 more pieces to kind of, you know, finish the puzzle. But I think I mean, like I said, we made it to the final. Like, we don't need to blow this team up at all.
No, I agree to a certain extent. I think, you know, the danger becomes that you can't use the same copy and paste formula. You know, like this team, other teams are going to figure out and spend a lot of time studying how they can break this team down, especially knowing that so many of these people are coming back. So I don't think you're going to, I think it would be a little insane to think you're going to get the same exact kind of output or performance to the T that each player contributed. You'll see some grow and you'll see some kind of maybe decline a little bit. And I think the injection of new blood, I think the Maxi Rodriguez element is going to be a game changer. But when I think strategically back to these signings, you know, like you said, we know how much how highly Kano thinks about Kevin Vang. He said as much in his interview. But then, like, when you also really bring in like AST, I don't think that competing clubs really understand the what AST brings to the team yet. He had 2 to 3 appearances, and I still am not sure. Like, he was just like a mad dog out there. And like when you give him more than 45 minutes to really kind of unlock a game, like what does he do? Like, is he an X factor that we just don't realize yet because we just didn't get to see enough of him? We know what King can do, and as long as both these guys can stay healthy, I do think they're going to have tremendous impact in whatever role that they get assigned in the club. I just love that they're back, and I agree with you. I was scared, and I'll be the first to admit that like we had the pressure of, because, you know, again, like if we got second in the league overall, then the baseline is you got to get second again. And I don't think that's true, by the way. I think that this is a completely new year in the sense of the priorities and the responsibilities. I would argue that getting a home playoff berth is more important than finishing second or better in the overall USL Cup playoff performance. Obviously, we want to win the whole thing, but like getting to do that in front of fans is a bigger priority. Like, it's just as successful of a season if you take second again, but you lose to Sacramento Republic away, or you take, you know, third and you exit the Eastern Conference Finals, but you got to play the game at home and you got like 2 games at home along the way. So
yeah, home playoffs would get this fan base like hooked.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, and I don't mean like us, the people who are already into it. I think the rest of the state.
Agreed. So like it's just good, and I think these will be those X factors along with some of the signings that are on the way. But I do want to talk about the status of Kofi Chimesi. Obviously, they bundled all 3 of these announcements together as kind of like you said, the boys are back in town. Kofi left off the table. Do you think this is the last we've seen of him in the amber and blue, or is there still something that could be going on that's just delaying the return of him to Rhode Island FC?
Yeah, I mean, that'd be interesting. Like you said, 3 of the 4 that were announced at the same time, but not Kofi. I think that maybe they couldn't come to a kind of mutual decision in terms of what it is that he wants. Maybe he's looking for more playing time, like, or at least guaranteeing playing time. So it's just kind of the unfortunate side of the business where at the end of the day, these guys don't have very long careers. So you can't, in essence, always have that kind of loyalty, right? And to a certain extent, maybe he took a step down to come to us.
Right. That's a pay cut.
Being from MLS. So at the end of the day, he has to take care of himself. I mean, he missed a lot of the season last year to some little injuries that kind of set him to the side. But when he did play, he was impressive for us. So I think myself and a lot of other fans would love to have him back. But at the end of the day, if he finds somewhere else that's going to take him, I'm not going to hold it against him.
I'll be curious to see
as long as it's not Hartford.
I'll be curious to see, that is eventually going to happen though, right? Like when you think about it, in the grand scheme of things, it may not happen this season, but eventually we're going to be stacked with so much talent, or we just have to let a player go. And the natural, like the easiest solution locally, regionally, and like what a team needs, we're going to have one of those trades. Like in baseball, there's a couple of clubs that like I always think of. I think it was Willie Mays for the Giants and Dodgers. Like he found out he was getting traded to the Dodgers, so he like just retired on the spot. Or maybe it was it Jackie Robinson that also, I don't know. Anyways, like those are my favorite stories when like the club like hatred of each other gets so strong that like the players don't even cross the union line.
You got to equity wash that. You got to transfer them to a different club first for a year or two before they can go to the rival club.
Exactly. So, that being said, I hope we see Kofi back, but and we'll watch during the preseason if he's still there, like doing training with the team. Most likely, he's probably just trying to showcase or trying to get like combines with other clubs. I hope he comes back, but also, you got to go get that bag while you can. I know it's only been 2 moves so far, and I know that we know some of the moves ahead, but if you just evaluate these 2 first signings, is it easy to say that this has been a successful offseason so far, considering how many players came back on retention?
I think so. So far, it's very much a so far so good. With it being January 9th, it's hard to say like, oh, we really need this. And, there's maybe a position or 2 I think that we could strengthen. But we also have 2 months left still. And that the club is talking to people and that they're kind of looking at these moves that they're trying to make. And they probably have tons of options. Like, with how I mentioned earlier with Sean Carey, are we looking at 2026? We know the club didn't be like, oh, whoops, we forgot to buy an extra left back or something. It's like, well, maybe there wasn't anything available, or maybe coach already has plans of a certain player to kind of fulfill that ulterior motives. Like, so far, I trust that they're doing what needs to be done.
Speaking of those players that maybe need to still come in and reinforce, this is the bench or I guess the entirety of the squad right now in available selection for Rhode Island FC. So you have in the goalkeeper position, you've still got Koke Vegas and Jackson Lee. The assistant coach and director of goalkeeping, Carl Spratt, has already indicated there will be another keeper coming on. So anticipate that signing in the months to come. And then in that, center back line right now, you really have 4 player options. You've got Frank Nodarce, Karifa Yao, Grant Stoneman, and the new Hugo Bacharach to play through. Really, it's in the wing backs right now. We're the lightest. Jojea Quazera, the only left wing back, and then Steven Turnbull in that right wing back role. We did see Frank Nodarce in that, but I don't think that's a normal thing. I think that's like when you want to start doing trick plays, or you got to make some difficult yellow card decisions.
More of we just need to rest Turnbull, and like Nodarce did well there. I mean, remember he play against Louisville and the away game?
He was gassed though. After the 60th minute, but that's the thing is like I think he's a good alternate, but I think he's a better standard center back.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's more of a Turnbull can't play every minute of every game,
right?
Kind of thing.
And in the CM spots, you can say CDM, CM triangle, whatever. You've got Zach Harivo, Mark Ibarra, Joe Brito, Clay Holstead, and then kind of now inching towards that forward cam spot. The evolution of moving that final midfielder a little bit more forward. You've got the new Maxi Rodriguez, Amos Shapiro-Thompson. In the time we saw was mostly playing at the front of that triangle. Isaac Anking was there in support when he was in that role, pairing with Harivo. And then Kevin Vang, who is not a striker. People keep thinking he's a striker. He is a freaky fast and sneaky little midfielder that will just come and blindside you and just be in the right spot at the right time. And then in that forward core, you've got just JJ Williams, Noah Fuson, and Chico. And I mean, right now, that's going to be the hardest battle. If we keep a 3-5-2, one of those players will still be relegated to the bench. It's great to know that, like, at the beginning of the season when we still were cycling through injuries, whether it was Williams or Chico, your alternate was Doyle. And everyone's saying, you got to go replace Doyle. You need a winger. You need a striker. Well, now we'll have Chico, Williams, or Fuson. But the problem is all three have to stay healthy for that to work. So we still need, I think, a fourth attacking player up there to challenge for spots, to challenge for a bench spot. We're not out of the woods yet, but I would say wingback, fullback support, and that fourth striker / winger are what we really need.
Yeah, I think if we could find some wingback who's maybe comfortable playing both sides, that could be helpful. Even someone comfortable in the back as well too. I don't know. There's this guy, Morris Dugan. I think sometimes he's played left wing back. That guy could be pretty good.
Hey, if he comes back, we've got it. Yeah, there you go. Like I said, I still think he's coming back.
But out of all of that, I almost wonder if we need a like a backup understudy kind of striker, right? We went through periods last year where like strikers can be streaky, right? All of our striker core was really good. Sometimes they were putting up stinkers, and it's just because they were in a funk, and you need to just throw someone else out there.
And so then they got transferred to Charleston.
So, I mean, if we could find someone, maybe some kind of young up and coming person who's willing to understand the role that, like, hey, you're not going to start over these guys, but they can't play every minute of every game. Like, we didn't re-sign Doyle. And Doyle actually played 1,000 minutes last year.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So when you think about that, like, who's replacing Doyle? Right? I mean, I know we have some players potentially coming back from injury rate, but I don't know. I think that we could use another alternate attacker. And it maybe doesn't even have to be an out-and-out striker, right? Doyle was like a left winger, left midfielder who would like to kind of cut in. Noah Fuson at times can be kind of similar, right? He's not an out and out striker. But yeah, I think they could use a little bit of help up there.
Well, let's talk about that help, because we do know that there are 3 reinforcements that are on the way in terms of additional signings. No, we won't say them out loud because we don't do that. We only vet and confirm it. I will tell you, one of them I thought was a confirmed signing. The deal fell through. So I am not going to be the type of person that goes and screams out to the walls that, this is coming when I don't know for sure. I have been told that there are 3, and I know the names.
See, MLS made a mistake on something like that.
I did not.
They put something out about that's Japanese Celtic striker that he was going to Atlanta United, but it turns out it was a different Japanese player.
Oh.
And then
what's that other Atlanta team? Like, I thought it was like the wrong one.
Atlanta, yeah. And then they had to issue an apology.
Single system that gets you right there.
Mean, even the big boys mess it up, so it's better to just kind of not throw things out there. Like, we're not Fabrizio Romano.
So FQB was like, oh, I like when you do these teases instead of your like the Helldivers gift drop. But like the reason I do that one is just brace yourself, it's coming. So when you see that one, within 24 hours, the player will be here. That's all it is. I very rarely will go out until I have the Fabrizio or the Tom Bogert credentials and say like, hey, if I put this out here, I will burn you as a source if you get this wrong. But yeah, we do have 3 on the way. And then when you look at it, what I will say is this of these players is that these are all signings that are not here to be like these surrogate like training players to just skirmish against in training.
Kevin Ordoy?
Yeah, these are not Kevin Ordoy signings. These are all players designed to come in and disrupt the starting 11 and fight for a job. So unlike when we got to like the mid-season, we're like, why haven't we seen Colin Smith anymore? Or why haven't we seen Nate Messer? These are not going to be the types of players that we only see the benefit from in the training side of things. These are going to be people, they may not make it all the way to the starting 11, but they are absolutely going to be competing for bench spots. They will absolutely be a key piece of the puzzle for the Jägermeister Cup, for Open Cup, and all of those kinds of things. So I anticipate. I think a lot of people are going to be excited by some of these signings. There's going to be one of them I think is an incredibly awesome unlock that we got, and it'll be exciting to see those get announced. I've been told that they should be coming across in the next couple of weeks so that they can make it ahead of preseason. So they're all just kind of wrapped up right now in like the USL League approval and the PLS Union USLPA. There we go, USLPA. To make sure that everything's above board, and then those will get announced.
T's, dot the I's, get the paperwork all filled out.
So then, you think about the social media presence and hyping like the community. I would expect to see one probably drop as early as next week, and then maybe like every 3 days until we get those signings completed. So no, you won't get those out of me. I'm sorry, that's just not how it's going to go. But nevertheless, be super excited. And I will not say USL Insight here. I will not say what positions they play.
They want to then try and go look at, okay, what's all the players who play this position?
Right. I've already given too much away with the with what I did on that post. So that is all I will say for the time being. Are they USL based? It's just Messi. It's Messi's brother Pessi, and it's Messi's third brother
Ronaldo.
Yeah, exactly. That's all there is to it. But you will be excited by these signings. And then there's still more to come, because based on the positions that these players play, there's still positions of need. So I would anticipate probably 1 or 2 more definitely need to come to fill out that roster into like the 25 to 26 total roster capacity spots. So just sit back and enjoy those while the time comes. I realize I just left the GIF or the graphic up this entire time, so no one saw any of our reactions. That's what happens when you get cold. You don't do these podcasts enough. You get rusty.
Yeah, it's been a while. A little bit of rust, gotta work it out.
And it's been a while. So anyways, let's get into the preseason. So everyone was asking questions about like preseason. Tell me more. Tell me everything. Here's what we know about the preseason. Players should be reporting in on or around January 20th to report in for medical to get ready for the preseason. I'll be excited to see the players' reaction to the cold. That was one of my favorite things when they did the first version of this before media day, especially considering all of these players have like gone to much warmer climates. Everyone's on like vacation in Pacific, like, or in island areas right now, I feel like, for the most part. The only one, by the way, who hasn't been, Noah Fuson has been training like crazy the entire off season. He's been just doing nothing but drills and camps, and like this man is on a mission to get better,
trying to make it to the top.
He cannot be stopped. I saw Jojea Quazera also starting to put in some reps, but yeah, everyone else is just kind of decompressing and relaxing, and nope, not Fuson. He's ready to go. But so we should have the team reporting in around the 20th, plus or minus a day there. And then in terms of the preseason itself, I don't have the dates confirmed. The club will be announcing that in the next week and a half or so, as what I've been told, but I do understand the normal flow of what we can expect from the preseason here. And so there's a general timeline here of what you can expect. So first and foremost, people have been asking, like, where will Rhode Island FC now train with Tidewater basically being online? There is an intent to use Tidewater, the stadium, as one of the main training grounds. We do not have an indoor complex dedicated and specifically built for Rhode Island, but Tidewater is not available yet, so the club will be starting its preseason training at the Wide World of Indoor Soccer in North Smithfield, the same facility that they used last season to get ready for 2024. So they'll start there and start going through the reps. Eventually, they are going to probably find their way to Tidewater to do some open practice. The stadium's not open to fans, but like the pitch and everything is open to employees. Players are employees, so they will be probably most likely practicing, on some cold days to get themselves prepared when North Smithfield's location's not available. And then after that, they'll be heading down to the IMG Academy once again, down in the Bradenton area for some escape from the winter here in early February. So you're going to go from North Smithfield down to the IMG Academy early February, and maybe try to enjoy some tropical weather.
As long as they don't got any cold snaps going on down there.
Isn't it like 18 degrees like this week there? Yeah, I don't know. It's insane. And then from there, it'll be interesting at the IMG facility. Last season they did play against Orlando City and an unannounced club. I don't remember the name of the unannounced club. We know the alleged Hartford game that happened. I don't remember the alleged one in Florida, but we know they did play against Orlando City, and I've heard that there will be at least one, maybe two MLS teams that the team will square off against when that gets announced with the schedule.
Against Inter Messi?
I mean, Miami and Orlando are the easy choices, right? They're both there. I did look trying to do some early homework, but ahead of this, a lot of the MLS teams are now heading out to that Aurora FC. Sorry, I mean Coachella Invitational. Have you seen the logo for that, by the way?
Yeah.
They just straight up stole it.
Copy my homework meme.
Love it. But there's a lot of MLS teams that are heading to the Coachella Invitational. So I just looked at the teams that will be playing in Florida. Right now, that's CF Montreal, the Chicago Fire, Colorado Rapids, Nashville SC, and FC Cincinnati. A couple of other teams haven't announced their preseason schedules yet, so I don't know if they'll be coming down to Florida or doing something completely different. But like New England hasn't announced, Philadelphia, Columbus, Toronto, DC United, like all of the kind of teams in our area. So don't know what will go on there. But they will be in the IMG Academy for probably about 10 to 14 days, the same way they were doing it before. But the difference now is that they don't have to have that awkward, weird acclimation and get to know each other. They can get straight down to soccer business and tactics. So that's exciting to see out of IMG.
Yeah. Fans should not expect this to be televised, though.
Yeah. No. Remember how hard it was to get these details?
Year, yeah. We couldn't even, it was an alleged Hartford match, right? It didn't even actually happen. So
I mean, that's not what like the 7 people I talked to say, but we have to still use air quotations every time we talk about it.
Yeah, and then there was some New England Revolution second team kind of action that happened. At this point, I assume that some of this may be more of the same. To a certain extent, we might see some of the same teams pop up again.
I mean, that makes sense, right? Because these aren't teams with infinite resources. They got to play regionally, locally. Hartford makes sense because they're local. New England Revolution 2 made sense because they're local. Yeah, I understand that.
Rowdies will be nearby too. I wonder if that could be a thing too, where have some of them kind of do some preseason thing. But at the same time, I almost wonder if they I mean, I guess it was be the same with Hartford, but I almost wonder, like, maybe do they not want to like give away their secrets or something? But
I don't know, man. It's preseason. Like the second you play the first game, the cat's out of the bag. So the only team you don't want to catch unaware is who are we playing first again? Charleston. Okay, don't let Charleston do their homework.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if anything, you just want to like be mindful of not, hurting each other and getting any injuries, right? I think, hopefully. Those things just happen. Hopefully we learn from last year. Maybe just be careful out there.
What was it? Connor McGlynn had a knee knock, AST got broken, and Isaac Anking had his jaw broken. So yeah, we want to avoid those things in preseason this time around.
It's more of just like get out there, lads, and do a few laps, kind of thing.
I'll be curious. Asking you here. We talk about more of the same. I do think it. I also think that there's an opportunity. Could we see like the New England Revolution first team? They are going through so much transformation. Like some of these games happen fast. Like it's not the Saturday pre-scheduled one. It's like hey, we got everyone together. It's Wednesday. We'll meet you at Gillette for a 4 p.m. showdown, and everyone kind of shows up. And then also there's 2 new USL 1 teams on the block that will be facing off in the Jägermeister. I don't know if that's an advantage for us. I mean, we played technically Division 3, and we then played college teams for our preseason. So would a USL 1 show off or showdown, would that be beneficial to us? I don't know, but that's another opportunity too.
Potentially. I think stuff like that could be good for the league, if anything, right? To kind of promote like the crazy fans are like excited even about preseason stuff, right? And if you've got USL teams, even if they're within different divisions within the giant USL umbrella, I mean, I think that would be exciting to USL fans.
No, I agree. Ewan writes in a really great question. Any word on the new technical staff replacement? So we did lose our video analyst and the person responsible for all of the New Jersey drone sightings in Juan. Juan moved to San Diego FC. Yeah, he had to flee to San Diego. And then, of course, we lost T, the head athletic trainer, at the beginning of the off season there. I don't know about the replacements yet. I know that there's a director of video analytics, so it seems like an even bigger role has been kind of like the job description, the in-depth breadth of it has been expanded. So haven't heard anything yet on that front. And then I haven't heard a new head athletic trainer. I know that there's Matt as well, who's also on the training team. Matt and T kind of worked good cop, bad cop a lot of the times, at least on terms of like the nutrition, the like recovery, and then like the everything else, physical recovery that those people do. So like there is at least someone there in the interim, but I think we'll probably learn pretty close to preseason. We'll start seeing new faces. Maybe people will be trialists going in and like seeing how they respond and how they react to the team. But I'm sure that that's a priority for Connor to make sure that those big shoes from both of those individuals get filled. And what better place to be a trialist than in Bermuda, which will be the final leg of the preseason. They are going back to Bermuda. We had that confirmed with Cano back at the interview, but we doubled down on that. They'll be leaving for Bermuda in mid-February to end of February to kind of put a nice capstone on their preseason efforts. Now, here's where it gets good, and this is where people need to pay attention. I have heard, but cannot yet confirm, but I have heard that there may be at least 1 or 2 additional teams traveling to Bermuda. I don't
allegedly.
know. I don't. Well, yeah. I mean, it's not allegedly. I've just heard. I don't know if these are MLS teams. I don't know if these are USL teams. But I have heard that there will be other teams or team heading there to play. What I don't know yet is if these teams will square off against each other in some sort of Bermuda Invitational, we'll call it, or if each of these teams is just there to do their own things, and then each of them gets like a crack at the Bermuda national team and the Bermuda Federation. Remember those games? I think one of them was like 8-1 and then like 5-2. So I don't know enough yet, but this could be the early beginnings of a new invitational. Remember Coach Cano's story about him as a player? He only got picked up because he was playing for like the Hornets in Bermuda, and New England Revolution did a preseason travel there. So this could be the start of something beautiful. And I'm excited. Maybe we need to look about getting tickets to Bermuda. Just saying for now. The interesting thing here, though, is that these games were absolutely open to the public as a way to bring in fans around the island of Bermuda. So I'll be curious, do they finally televise this game? So I'm actually trying to get ahead of it with the Bermuda Federation and go like, just put a camcorder out, like sell a $5 subscription, and I'll make sure at least like 20 people buy it.
Someone live stream it on YouTube.
Seriously, just get your cell phone out, put a charger pack into it, and just go. Violate all of the rules and just do it. So who knows? We could go. Would you go to Bermuda to watch some preseason? Do we need to go out with La Banda and head out?
Remember Spaceballs?
Yeah.
Do you think the Lavanda has like those wings that comes out the top and they can like fly over there?
Can Lavanda float so that La Banda can go? I need supporter group members that are listening. Please let me know if that's the case. We need to find out immediately.
Now, if you all remember, last year's season ticket members were gifted with a final preseason match between Providence College and RIFC as a thank you. If a match is scheduled between the club and a local college is going to be away since Tidewater isn't ready, we're guessing that since RFC can't control that, there's a likelihood that it's not in the club's power to do anything for fans this year since, they'll be spending all of that initial time on the road.
Yeah, with 5 road games at the beginning and no home stadium yet. If there is one, if it's like PC, then it's going to be at PC's beck and it'll be PC hosting the event. So maybe that will happen as both a treat to college students in attendance at the school and then like local fans, but it won't be something under the control of Rhode Island FC. So unfortunately this year we may have to just kind of let that go. Maybe they'll find a way to stream stuff kind of in replacement of, because I know that a lot of these fans that have bit from the apple early, they want to see this club and they don't care if it's beating up the Bermuda national team or, taking on Orlando City again and getting knocked around a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see what the club does to try to kind of influence that and then go from there. If you just kind of looking at the graphic here, you've got the soccer, worldwide indoor soccer, you've got the IMG Academy, and then you've got the Bermuda National Stadium in Bermuda. Which one would you go and watch a game if you could control it?
Just one.
You don't know the lineup. You just are going strictly for the vibes.
I don't know. I wonder what the vibes are like in Bermuda. Check them out.
I only say indoor because I can just drive up there, and then I would just kind of hope that it's an alleged Hartford game. That's I mean, in Hartford, I can't believe I have to say this. I have to give Hartford credit. They have a very nice training facility. It's that inflatable dome. That's like the only positive thing that
Weird
they have
that
going
they
for
didn't
them.
put as much effort into their stadium.
They had to spend the rest of the money on that corporate sponsored tifo that they used against us in the derby. All right, let's get into questions. Let's wrap things up and kind of go from there. So, do you want to take the first question? We'll do kind of a go back and forth.
Deezer here wants to know, where are the new kits?
So lots of people asked that when we threw out the open for questions. I'm going to tell you guys right now, I'm not hearing anything from the club. And that is unusual when you think about the fact that we had the kit reveal party back in December of 2023. And then when you look at it from the fact that, like there's not been any conversation. If I was selling kits, I would have had them available I would have had at least one of them available for Christmas to pre-order and buy.
When you
that money.
Think about it, most clubs are often announcing their next year's kit like months in advance, right? Like their season over, and it was like, hey, you want to buy this new kit?
Right. And then you see the third kit, if they do one that comes out in the middle of the summer, like, hey, did you think that you were done giving us money?
Ones.
Yeah, no, you're not. You're gonna give us some more money.
You want to extract the dinero right away. So it is kind of weird. It makes me wonder, like, what if they're not going to do one? Which I don't think is the right move.
I think they're not going to. I have not confirmed this, but everyone needs to brace themselves. I think we may be in a very rude surprise that there will not be a new set of kits or a new kit, at least when the first kickoff happens at Tidewater. I think that is a misstep by the ownership and by the people running the club. But if they've chosen not to do it, there must be a good reason. I think that alienates the OGs, because the dedicated fans from 2024, those are the ones that are going to spend any amount of money to get anything with an RIFC badge on it. And then it also kind of lets you get to distinguish yourself in year one. Like, I was here, like, that's always been my favorite thing with the clubs that I've been fan of for longer, is seeing like, oh, that's when you became a fan. Like, you have a kit from the team that we're not going to say out loud because we're not an MLS podcast, but you've got like a 2009 kit, I think, maybe even earlier.
2009
yeah
kit.
And so like if someone was to ever flex on you, just show that. It's like, oh man, this guy knows soccer. Like he goes way back. Like there's a bit of fun in that. And like the people that are collectors, like taking that away from them, that's gonna not be a really good feel good moment. But I'm not here to challenge the club. I'm just here to like echo what I've heard from fans and like what their concerns are. We need at least a new kit, like whether it's a third kit, a community kit. Not having a kit, and it's got to be a good kit. You've set the bar so high with that road kit that like it can't be like some boring generic thing. It's got to be a good kit. If you're not doing that, Rhode Island FC, like you need to take a look in the mirror. You need to survey your fans and be like, hey, do you guys want kits? Like,
survey says yes.
Survey says we want kits.
Let us give you our money.
Shut up and take my money. So I don't want to start a fight. We know a lot of the club listens to this, so I don't want to cause problems, but you need kits, guys. Like that's just what needs to happen. Next question comes up. When will we know the Open Cup schedule? Jason, you want to take this one?
Open Cup. So championship teams did not enter the Open Cup last year until mid-April. So there's only 2 regular season games in April with a break between the 5th and the 19th. So most likely maybe the 12th away.
Weekend Open Cup game, but away. That's interesting. Why away?
I don't know. That kind of just,
well, because we can't play our first game until at least May. So
yeah. So I mean, there's that.
So if you think about the Open Cup,
but also just the way that it works is usually I forget the way that the seeding works is in terms of you're going to play the lower team first, right? And then because we couldn't play Hartford first, right?
Well, even though we got right,
we got drawed against them. So I mean, that was just like destiny. So that'll probably happen again, and then we can't play them, and then I don't know, we play NYCFC 2 or something.
Well, no, I mean maybe. So here's the thing: I haven't seen the MLS teams that have been announced or the MLS Next Pro teams. Has that come out yet?
Don Garber was like, "Yeah, we'll do it. It's fine, whatever. I don't care."
But those names haven't come out, and we saw those before the end of the year.
But there also last year was a lot more hullabaloo because he was saying, no, we're not going to do it.
Right.
This year has just been a cursory, like, yeah, whatever. I don't know. We'll probably do the same thing again.
Which is scary because that means we could play the New England Revolution 2. We could play the New England Revolution. We could play Hearts of Pine. They're a USL 1 team. Westchester. We could basically recycle the Jägermeister Cup in another capacity again. What's crazy, though, I'm just thinking about this now. If the stars align, do you realize that we could end up, if we got like to the second level of Open Cup and Hartford did too, we could play Hartford 4 times in 1 year.
That would be awful.
That's too many. That's too many times. I don't know if I like.
I'm tired
Jaeger
of
Cup.
seeing you. I'm only contractually obligated to see you twice a year, unless you like make it to the playoffs.
And then if we do, here's the crazier thing: in the first round, since we can't host, I think we get priority choice if we win and move up. So in the second round, which takes place like late May, we would host, and then Hartford would have to play us 3 times in a row, or not in a row, but 3 times at home at the new Tidewater Stadium. Could you imagine? Like, oh my gosh. What are we doing
There
here?
would be like, it's one of those things where if we come out of that and beat them every time, hilarious, great. But at the same time, you're like, we're still new in the league. I kind of want to see some other teams more often. There's a lot of USL League 1 teams and even USL 2 teams that would kind of be more interesting.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure I want to see that either. Let's move on. We'll wait and see. Again, this is just schedule congestion may happen. We got one from Otto here.
Yeah, he wants to know, what are those flags for?
So
you did kind of hint at this.
He's referring to the Instagram post. Listen, sometimes I just like to travel, and maybe those are the places I want to go and visit, guys. I don't know. I can't use the Raising Anchor account for just travel plans.
Yeah, they're definitely not weird cryptic messages.
No, not at all. I mean, did I accidentally travel into Canada yesterday? Sure. Did you know that was possible? Yeah, you can accidentally go into Canada, and when you say you just like to turn around, it's a big deal. They don't like the idea that you want to use their country as a U-turn. So, maybe it's because of political tensions right now. I don't know, but like, don't go to Canada right now, guys. It's not a fun place right now. And then final question here of the night. This one's good. I like this question a lot. Eric writes in, when are we going to get game times, and what's your read on how many day games versus night games we'll get?
So Defiance 1636 did the calculations, and when RAFC posted the countdown clock, that first game will be at 7 p.m. Tidewater.
So the 5-3, because I don't think that's big news yet. Matt Jean on the board did the calculation. 5-3 San Antonio FC Tidewater home opener will be at 7 p.m. Everyone, you're welcome. Math has been done.
Yeah, so we've been told that a majority of the warm weather matchups will be at 7 p.m. with the colder season games being locked into hopefully that 4 p.m. slot. All kind of depending, though, also on broadcast requirements, league approval, any kind of competition that Tidewater facility might have with local concerts nights before getting ready for stadiums. I mean, there's some other stadium, I don't know, 25 minutes up the road. Not sure if anyone cares about that one, but
so I did
come into play.
I did check in, and like when they said the local concert stuff, they were just saying like, if Taylor Swift is there Friday night and they need just extra time to move assets around, clean up the stadium, they'd feel much more comfortable.
Yeah, maybe Jimmy needs to go help out, keep the Swifties in check or something.
Exactly. So I would anticipate that that's probably the main factor, but it does sound like basically from, let's call it May to September, they're mostly going to be 7 p.m. games. And then in those colder, on bookended games on each side, that'll probably be brought up to a 4 p.m. with exceptions. I know there's a lot of fans out there that say like, oh, I got kids, 7 p.m. doesn't work. I don't know how to solve that because, also too, like broadcast time, like for the fan that doesn't want their kids out too late, I can also find like the fan that's like, oh, I'd like to have my whole day and then like capstone it with this, like
you're never going to satisfy everyone, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, but I know we'll all work through it. So I'm excited. I asked Flanny last week, curious your thoughts. We talked about, what's going to be the name of Tidewater. I said Dunk. I think he said he'd like it to be called Hasbro, to try to keep Hasbro in Pawtucket. You got a thought on what Tidewater should be named or what you'd like to see it be named?
Autocrat Tidewater.
I don't think Autocrat has enough money for that. I don't even know. Like, how many employees does Autocrat even have? Like, how much coffee milk are they producing? I need to know these things now. I want to know. Chat, if you've got a name for the stadium, throw it out there right now. We'll put it up in the final moments here.
Do you think you'll be able to get coffee milk at Tidewater?
I mean, if they don't do that, I will tell you this: when the food and beverage director came out, one of the things they did, like, it's such a good job. They went out on a tasting tour of Rhode Island to capture the essence of Rhode Island. So, like, they went and got clam cakes, they went and got chowder, lobster rolls. You know, they I think they tried like 3 or 4 different calamari spots, and then they went to like all of like the local fanfare, like the most. So, like, I will tell you, and I can't confirm this, but like based on the notes I saw, I'm pretty sure some hot wiener system will be there. Like, you got to have the gaggers, you got to have them all the way there. Like, that seems like it'd be a big miss, even if it's just in like, you know, like, you've got the name brand food centers, then you've got that generic one that does those, like, that one should have the hot wieners at that point. So I think that would be a huge miss, but I don't see it going any other way in regards to that. So you think Autocrat, like, that's your actual answer?
I have no idea. It's probably just going to be Dunk, right? I don't, but at the same time, how do you even make that work, right? Is it Dunkin' Donuts at Tidewater? Like, what's the naming convention there that works?
I think if you're paying the money, you don't want to share the real estate. You want to just say it's you.
It's just Dunk Stadium. I mean, because will they even use Tidewater?
But think of every fan that like encapsulates the stadium as their own, and then like the first time it changes names because the sponsorship's done and they move on, you're still going to call it like whatever it was before. And so, like, I think it will always be Tidewater Stadium. Now, we won't ever like go and say like the Dunkin' Donuts Center at Tidewater Stadium. We'll just start calling it by its nickname. But like, you can also then universally just apply like, this is Tidewater. So like, it will always be Tidewater, but maybe it'll just get like a little rouge, you know, a little slap on. If it is the Dunk, they need to have a Dunkin' Donuts coffee shop that is 2-way. So it's open 24/7, but 7 days a week.
You could, like, walk by the stadium,
and then it's open to the inside for the game day. Yeah, that needs to happen. So, anyways, I think that's it for me. Do you got anything left in you? I mean, the first one out the door, I thought we'd be 1 hour. We're supposed to be in Pawtucket right now playing board games, and I've lied to several people. Hopefully, they're not listening.
There's still some time.
We're gonna go just so that we say we win. If we missed everyone, that's on us. But you know, we're gonna definitely.
All right, so let's just wrap it up here then. So, make sure to check out our friends over at the Blazing Musket for all of your New England soccer coverage, including RAFC news at theblazingmusket.com. Recently joined with Backheeled. You can follow us on Twitter, Threads, TikTok, Blue Sky at RAFC Podcast. We have an Instagram at Raising Anchor, and there's our website, raisinganchorpodcast.com.
Anchor's up, man. Buddy. This was rusty. It was good though. We got the kinks out early. And as always, for those of you participating in the live chat right now, feel free to leave your comments in the outro, and we'll post those as we wrap things up. So see you guys all soon. And until then,
thanks, guys. Take care.
Adios.